Good day to my viewers once again. My name remains Francis Celestin Nyo, your safety professional here online. Today, we want to take a look at hazard and effects management process. We are looking at hazard and effects management process. Okay, first and foremost, let's take a look at the meaning of hazard. Hazard can be defined as anything that have the potential to cause harm, loss of production, or loss of facility. Anything in workplace, anything in any place that have the potential to cause harm to personnel, to make people to injure, or to cause fatality, or to make someone to lose investment, lose the whole facility, lose all the investment that he has worked for. Such a thing is regarded as hazard. And it is very, very important that before any project or any job is done, we have to take a look at the activities that's going to be involved in the project. We take a look at the job itself that we are going to do. And inherent in each of these jobs and operations, there is hazard peculiar to them. So this leads us to the hazard identification. So when you take a look at the operation that you want to do, you take a look at whether you want to do lifting operation, you take a look at whether you want to do welding operation, you take a look at whether you want to do mooring operation, or whether you want to do routine or non-routine activities. You ensure that you identify those hazards that are involved in the job. And in some of these operations, for example, we have lifting operation. In lifting operation, we have a lot of hazards that are involved, which is working at heights is one of the hazards involved in lifting operation. We have working under load. If somebody is under a load, it is an hazard. We have, if you are carrying the tonnage that is more than the crane or the lifting gears, it becomes an hazard. So lifting operation or using lifting gears that are not certified, and making use of personnel who are not competent to operate these lifting gears, they all become hazard to the job. And while if you do this, you are sure of having injuries or having accidents. So you first and foremost take a look at this operation, identify those hazards involved, and also find a control measures to them. You can also see if you are doing welding operation. In welding operation, you can see that sparks are going to be created, and when these sparks are created, it's an open flame. Sometimes you may be doing cutting also. As you are doing welding, there will be open flame, there will be sparks creating within your area. There will be electricity also, energized electricity as you are doing your welding. Those sparks created, they are all hazards. Those flames that you see, they are hazards. The environment that you are doing that job may also be a potential hazard to the job. So you are expected to identify these things. And when you identify them, you also know that, okay, I'm having sparks, coming out from my grinding machine. I'm having open flames coming out from my welding joints. How do I control them in order for this spark not to cause maybe fire in where you are working. With this now, you have to know that, okay, the control measures have to be that you have to, contain your work area using fire blanket, using tarpaulin to, you create a tent, covering that area, so that within your area of work, as you are doing this welding, if you have hydrocarbon release or you have gas, within that particular area, this thing will not trigger fire to happen. And also, as you are also, after putting the tent, you also go a long way to see how you can bring in your fire extinguisher, keep them close, bring in fire water hose, keep them close, and then ensure that there is a standby safety watcher in order to fight this fire. And in some offshore operation, or where you are working in oil and gas industry, where you have hydrocarbon release and all that, you must also test for gas in the atmosphere to be sure that the area that you are working, there is no gas in the atmosphere, so that you can work safely. There are other operations like mooring operation. Mooring operation, maybe you want to do STS, which is ship to ship operation, throwing mooring ropes for two ships to come together. These mooring ropes, we look at it as a death trap, because if you are not careful in handling these mooring ropes, at the end of the day you can have man overboard. At the end of the day, you can have somebody's finger being trapped in the mooring rope during the operation. So, looking at this now, we know that effective communication have to come in as you are doing your mooring. Effective communication have to come in. You must also ensure that all the personnel that is working in that operation are well kitted and also understand their responsibility as they are doing this mooring, so that at the end of the day, these control measures will match with the risk assessments that you have already done for this job. So we also have other operations like a confined space entry. In confined space entry, this one is the highest kind of operation that we have. A lot of hazard involved in the job. And in confined space entry job, we also look at it as a death trap, because if you don't follow the procedure to identify all the hazards and follow the control measures in order to work in a confined space, you have a very serious problem. Like, okay, we will take a confined space as a topic, but for the purpose of this hazard identification, if we want to work in a confined space, the hazards that can be identified in a confined space is limitation of oxygen, because it is a confined space. Or you can also have manual handling, in opening the manholes and entry. Even the person that is also entering, we have to take a look at the health of such person before entry. We have to take a look at the procedures. The procedures must be followed in order for you to work safe in a confined space. So these make part of the hazard identification. So before you do any job at all, be it routine or non-routine activities, you take a look at hazards that are involved in the job that you are doing. Even at home, you can have hazards. Slip and trip and fall is also hazard. You can have release of hydrocarbon. You can have release of gas. You can have weather condition. You can have weather condition. You can also have walking at heights. You can have walking above water. You have a lot of hazards, that can be identified in different operations that you are doing. So, before you work in any place, ensure that you identify all the hazards that are involved in your job, and also bring in a control measures It is not just for you to just identify the hazard and leave it there. But after hazard identification, what do you do? What control do you put in place so that this hazard will not be a threat? Okay, and at the end of the day, have effects in the life of the personnel. So, hazard identification is a key. Is a key to ensuring that you walk safe in any workplace. This has not finished. In the subsequent video, we are going to look at the effects management processes. Having identified hazard, what are the consequences that are involved, if you don't manage hazard well? And we also take a look at managing it to ensure that goal zero is achieved. Thank you very much, and God bless you.